unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to your live boxing ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to your live. Oh yeah, it's about to go down. And you know this, man. Terence Crawford finally responds to Lomachenko losing to Teofimo Lopez and getting the boot from the ESPN topped #1 spot pound for pound list. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. You know we working, baby. Appreciate everyone who sent Cash App, $ boxing ego, link in the description, super chats, all that good stuff. We're continuing to grow. I told you we're going to close this year very strong. Now, there was an awesome fight with Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. A star was born. Teofimo beat and dusted off Lomachenko, made it look relatively easy considering who Lomachenko was supposed to be. Now Terence Bud Crawford, another pound for pound great fighter, has finally responded to the shifting that fight has created. You see, everyone after that fight came out with their own pound for pound list, and people moved because of that. And I have to put in this before I get started with further going on with this video. I have to mention this because when it comes to old media, you see the games they play. When they prop up fighters like Lomachenko for years, telling you that they're better than, you know, Errol Spence or Terence Crawford or Andre Ward or whatnot, and then when they lose, you see old media, now everybody wants to come out with these brand new pound for pound lists. However, when certain people achieve victories, they don't revise their pound for pound list. So it goes to show you the bigoted thinking with old media, how certain guys, and the ignorance, how certain guys, they can have brilliant tour de force performances, and they don't feel the need. These businesses, these corporations, these organizations and entities, they don't feel the need to change or alter the pound for pound list. They don't. Like, let's say both Charlos just recently had great performances on a doubleheader, dangerous fights on paper, one versus Rosario in a unification, and Jamal, Big Charlo, in what should have been a unification because we all watched Derevyanchenko beat Gennady Golovkin. However, despite both of the black fighters, African-American fighters, winning, Jermell and Jamal Charlo, you didn't see ESPN and a lot of these big box mainstream and old media update their pound for pound list. You know why? Because they're not going to give people like the Charlos that type of credit. Even though it was a phenomenal win for both of them, Jermell and Jamal, it really should have been a unification for both. We know Derevyanchenko just beat Gennady Golovkin, and he should be the champion, and Charlo dispatched of him, but they don't enter the Charlos into the pound for pound list. But as soon as Lomachenko loses, then boom, they feel the need 2 days later to shift the list around and give you an updated list. So in the words of Ice Cube, here's what they think about you. Now, let me get to Terence Crawford, and then I can't wait to talk about this subject. Make sure you guys support independents like myself. You know, this is how I make a living. This is how I provide you more and more content, and you know, just do more and be better as a channel and more resources and stuff. So make sure you guys support, because we got to clean the sport of boxing up. Floyd had a good rant where he was talking about too many belts in boxing, something I've said for years. Now, anyway, this is ESPN Plus, or ESPN.com's pound for pound ranking. They finally have moved Terence Crawford to the #1 spot. They put Canelo at #2, Neo Inoue 3, Errol Spence 4, Teofimo 5, Lomachenko 6, Usyk 7, Tyson Fury, who cheated, 8. In at #9, Juan Francisco Estrada, and then they have Gennady Golovkin. Again, you don't see names like Jermell or Jamal Charlo, and they just had brilliant performances where they should have won. So I like Bud Crawford. I'm happy. I told you for years he's pound for pound. Actually, the thing is, Bud staying at pound for pound, this is hilarious because for years I told you Bud was the pound for pound person after Andre Ward retired. I had him number 2, and then Andre Ward was number 1. Old media told you it was guys like Gennady Golovkin, Lomachenko, and Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, and they never would put Terence Crawford up at number 1. Then as soon as their king, Vasily Lomachenko, loses in a dominant fashion, in a way we've never seen other guys like Terence Crawford dominated. I have never watched, since Crawford's been Crawford, I've never seen a fight outcome go 12 rounds where he gave up the first 7 rounds. Because even there's fights like Crawford versus Thomas Delorme. Crawford, he wasn't, first of all, he wasn't getting schooled up like Lomachenko, but he wasn't as aggressive and stuff. But as soon as he hit that switch in round 6 or 7, he got Delorme out of there. Right, but he was losing rounds in that fight. Same thing with Terence Crawford versus Gamboa. I think that's Crawford's toughest fight. To me, Gamboa was winning that fight. Gamboa was definitely winning that fight, but it doesn't matter because the outcome was Crawford got buzzed, and then he stuck to his mission and wouldn't be denied, and he had knocked down Gamboa 4 times for a stoppage. So Lomachenko had no knockdowns, and he lost 7 rounds, and he lost the championship 12th round. You tell me anybody else who in the history of the sport of boxing, in modern history, was ranked on your number 1 pound for pound list, and then they put up a performance like that where they just easily got blown out for 7 rounds, and they were hesitant, gun shy, didn't have the answers, didn't have a plan B, and then they lost the championship round that they definitely needed in round 12. We have never seen it with the likes of Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, Canelo. I mean, when has Canelo just lost 7 rounds in a row like that? Like, you know what I'm saying? I thought he was losing to Amir Khan, but again, those situations don't matter because he blasted Amir Khan. Eesh. You know what I'm saying? He blasted Amir Khan out. So, obviously that wasn't the greatest fight at 155, but what I'm saying is it doesn't matter if someone's ahead necessarily if you can make it right and get the stoppage, stuff like that. Lomachenko didn't get no stoppage. So on one hand, it's good to see Terence Crawford on the pound for pound list and getting some respect, but it's also cap because for years ESPN, including Teddy Atlas when he was a mainstay and when he was on the network, he told Terence Crawford and Andre Ward at a Crawford fight I covered for you guys on the channel, he told them to their face that Lomachenko was greater than them. So Exhibit A, we have all the data, and that's the great thing about a platform in this digital mob, and a platform like YouTube is breadcrumbs. It's breadcrumbs. So here's the actual picture. I was actually in Nebraska for this fight. This one wasn't in Omaha. This was in Lincoln. I went to this fight, and look at how they're looking at him. They're looking at Teddy Atlas on ESPN live on the air after Crawford just knocked out Ndongo. And these 2 African-American fighters are looking at Teddy Atlas, who's, has a long stay in the boxing game, listening to them belittled and Lomachenko propped up before both of them. And they're just looking at him like, what? Like, all right, bro, we're going to let you talk. But it was crazy. It was crazy to see that in this agenda that they keep pushing. Crawford had just knocked out Ndongo. So listen, when a fighter like Terence Crawford, African-American fighter, darker complected, he knocks out Ndongo, clears out his whole division, including Victor Postal, who we just watched give Jose Ramirez a challenging fight. Some people even had Ramirez losing that fight, right? He cleared out his division, violent, I think it was a 3rd round knockout, if memory serves correctly. ESPN, their narrative that they were pushing was that Crawford was still somehow behind Lomachenko, right? And Andre Ward. Crawford wasn't better than Lomachenko, which I told you guys was false. But we just watched him unify. But then years later, Usyk, he could fight in the World Boxing Super Series against Murat Gassiev or whoever. And when he becomes undisputed and gets the Muhammad Ali trophy, then now all of a sudden it's a big deal. But Crawford was the first person, probably since Jermaine Taylor fighting Bernard Hopkins, to be undisputed, or at least the person that I can remember, the last person in a while that I can remember that went on to be undisputed, you know, since probably Jermaine Taylor, you know, and they didn't want to make a big deal about it. Again, you had Teddy Atlas, who had a joke of a analysis telling these two men that they weren't better than Lomachenko. And we've never seen, even in the Kovalev fight, since Andre Ward's up here, in the Kovalev fight, that was a tough fight, the first fight. Andre Ward, I had him winning by a slim margin. It was a close fight. I was at that fight, and I was at the rematch. Andre Ward never looked like what Lomachenko looked like. He fought Carl Froch with a fractured left hand. I got pictures on my computer where his left hand looks like a cow udder. It's just completely swollen. He beat Carl Froch like that. He beat a bigger Chad Dawson by stoppage, right? He stopped Kovalev in the rematch. Even in the first fight where Kovalev dropped him in the second round, Andre Ward got better. He started fighting his ass off, going to the body, etc. Terence Crawford, the man beside him. So for years, Boxing Ego, told you guys that these two African-American male boxers from America, in America, were the best boxers pound for pound. But Teddy Atlas, another American, said that they weren't, and he put him behind Lomachenko. Now he looks foolish. He looks foolish because we've never seen Andre Ward, even in the Kovalev fight, which was challenging, lose 7 rounds and not do anything. We never seen Terence Crawford versus Benavidez or Jeff Horn, who has a win over Pacquiao. We never seen these guys look like that. Boom. Breadcrumbs. Like I said, that's the great thing about this YouTube platform, is it records all of your movement, all your data. I've been on the platform for years. This is me making a video years ago about this very subject. I told you guys about it. It didn't make sense for Teddy Atlas to put Lomachenko in front of guys like Ward and Terence Crawford. But for whatever reason, Teddy Atlas felt that Lomachenko, here's the list. You guys see it. Again, the great thing about digital platforms and YouTube and stuff is you guys can see it. This was ESPN and Teddy Atlas, who represented ESPN, pound for pound list. When Ward was an active fighter, keep in mind. That's why he's on the list. So that's not, after he retired or something. Teddy Atlas put Lomachenko. Look at his record, people. You guys see it on the screen. Smash the like button. That's why I say support independent boxing as well. You know what I mean? We're here to take over. We're not here to, like Conor McGregor said, we're not here to take part. We're here to take over, because there's a lot of BS in the game. This is after Crawford unified and after Andre Ward had at least beaten Kovalev one time. I don't know if it was before the second fight or whatever. It might have been. It might have been at the time. I'd have to look that up. But either way, Andre Ward had already gotten past the Super 6, and Teddy Atlas put these two African-American fighters behind a Ukrainian fighter who had a record of 9-1. So he had already lost to Salido. Just look at how embarrassing this looks. Lomachenko, you have him ranked number 1 with a 9-1 record and 7 knockouts. But he won via Gary Russell, who hadn't fought anyone at that particular moment. He won via like a majority or split decision, and he was dropped, which could have been a deciding factor. And Gary Russell claims that he was dehydrated. But, we're not here to make excuses. Gary Russell lost. Lomachenko had good timing. But needless to say, it wasn't what Teofimo did to him. It wasn't no blowout. Lomachenko had 10 fights, and they put him at the number 1 list. Andre Ward was 32-0 with an identical record to Crawford, who had a record of 32-0. And they both had good KOs. They both had, like Crawford had already beaten Gamboa and stuff like that. It's just, this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. But the great thing, like I said, I'm here to always talk about it. So this is my video. You guys see the date, August 21st, 2017. So it's ironic that the same message and the things that I'm saying now, I was saying back then. 3 years later, and I'm still saying the same thing. Lomachenko, he's a solid fighter, but no way is he pound for pound number 1. Now that Teofimo worked him, please tell me how you ever had Lomachenko. He lost to Salido, who has double-digit losses, right? He has double-digit losses. This is not my opinion. This is actual facts. This ain't a punchline. These are real facts. This is Salido, Orlando Salido, who beat him. Look at his record, 44-14. And at the time, I think he had 12 losses. You know what I mean? When he fought Lomachenko, you know? So he lost these fights. Yeah, so he had 2 less losses because I see he lost to Miguel Roman and Rocky Martinez. And I think he won that fight, you know, if I'm not mistaken. He should have won. So, yeah, he had 12 losses, and Lomachenko loses to him and still gets #1 pound for pound. The Great White Hope. Now, before you guys go off the rails and say, oh, this is racist. No, this is an actual term. Dictionary.com, the Great White Hope, you know, because I know how old media likes to try to spin it. And I'll read it. Something or someone that is expected to succeed. For example, Mark is the, quote, Great White Hope of the International Division. This expression dates back from the early 1900s when heavyweight boxing champion Jack Johnson, who was black, see, and you guys wonder why I put emphasis on certain words. Jack Johnson, who was black, seemed invincible, and the term was used for any key word, operative word, any white opponent who might defeat him. That's where it comes from. So before you jump off the rails and scream and get mad in the comment section, this is actual phrase from history. This is a historic phrase, the Great White Hope, which is what Lomachenko was. I know he's, you know, some people want to play semantics. He's from the Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. But you guys get it. And now Crawford, they finally want to put him at the pound for pound list. Crawford, he didn't say too much. He just put shh, because he's been telling you for years, like I have, that he's the best. You know, he feels he's the best and the best fighter. And ironically enough, this is the kicker, and this is not a knock on Bud Crawford, but the obviously pound for pound list shift. They're going to shift from time to time depending on who fights who and stuff like that. I don't know if Crawford can hold the #1 pound for pound spot fighting Mean Machine and you know, guys like Kell Brook when Errol Spence is unifying and beating Sean Porter in a barn burner and beating an undefeated Mikey Garcia. So it's funny that old media, they just now putting Terence Crawford at the #1, and you have to factor in also Canelo Alvarez, recent accomplishments and stuff like that. So I don't even know for a fact, you know, it's not super clear like it was in you know, at the time, if Crawford can even be the #1, because other people like Errol Spence for sure are up in the ante. Guys like Teofimo just beat who you said was the boxing god and the Matrix and high tech. Do you see what I'm saying? And they're just now, years later, it's just like, it's like urban music, like hip hop and R&B music and stuff like that. When the inner cities and the culture likes this song and the radio gets a hold of it and then plays it out, and then it goes it transcends just, you know, hip hop culture or whatnot, then people who initially liked the song, they've grown tired of it because we've been bumping this, like let's say Drake, Kiki, do you love me? Are you right? And then the radio blows it up to the point where it reaches everybody. And then you start seeing on TikTok, they're doing the Kiki challenge, or let's say Cisco with the thong song, or DMX, what these bitches want from a, you know, when that first came out, people in the streets was already bumping it like, this dude DMX. There was Brenda, Ken, Dawn, LaShawn, Inez, and Alicia. About 3 Kims, what? You know, we've already been jamming and bumping this. So by the time that it hits the radio and seeps out to the point where it's on like TikToks and at the time like TRLs and countdown shows, the inner cities that first got a hold of it have already grown tired of that song. You see what I'm saying? The analysis and the analogy that I'm making. So the thing is, at the point, been telling you Terence Crawford is dope. He's skilled, and he should have been #1 or 2 on everybody's list. They was telling you it's Lomachenko. Now, as soon as Lomachenko loses, now they want to put Terence Crawford there. But the thing is, other people have shifted as well. You know, like Nui has fought Donaire since then. Canelo Alvarez, obviously Errol Spence had a unification. He about to fight a quality top 5, top 6 person in Danny Garcia next. You know what I'm saying? So now I don't know if Crawford can even hold his spot. Listen, I'm not mad at Crawford being number 1, so don't take it as that. What I'm saying, because he's very skilled, but his last couple of fights, if we're doing current pound for pound list, you got to look at the recent opposition, and it's a little bit harder if other people are fighting, you know, the highest echelon of, like Teofimo just fought who was supposed to be number 1 and beat him. So, you know, it's all subjective. But happy for Crawford that ESPN, and it's also, it looks a little bit capped because Canelo's not an ESPN fighter. And in the top 3, they got 2 ESPN fighters. And then Errol Spence is outside of the top 3. And a lot of people would argue that Errol Spence could be the number 1 person. We don't know Crawford versus Errol Spence. We don't know who wins. We can only speculate and guess who we believe would win. So it's a lot of BS in the game, from Teddy Atlas saying that Lomachenko was better. What do you think now? What do you think now? Is Lomachenko, he said that this man was the GOAT, you know what I'm saying? He was the pound for pound. Does he look like the GOAT? He didn't even do anything versus, I don't even think the fight was really close. I don't know what people were watching, but we'll talk about this more. Let me know what you guys think. I had to go in. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We definitely working. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego, signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.